Okay, so we had to get to this one sooner or later. This is Fear and Desire, the first film by Stanley Kubrick. He had made a few documentaries before this, but this was his first foray into dramatic film. He found someone who'd written a script, decided to make it, and it's not particularly good. This film is quite famous really for not being all that great, so much so that director Stanley Kubrick did actually try and get rid of every copy. You know, he tried to find all the copies of it that were out there and destroy them. He did not want anyone seeing this film, and he actually got the screenplay for his second film whilst this was in theatres. He found the backing, found the money for his second film while this one was playing in theatres, because, well, quite frankly, if investors had have invested after, or been given the opportunity to invest after this had played in theatres, they probably would have changed their minds. So yeah, sensible move there from Kubrick. But basically the script for this is terrible. It follows these four soldiers. We don't know who they're fighting for or what war they're fighting in. Everything kind of seems very generic, and purposefully so, I think. Kubrick doesn't want us to know what war this is. And I think a lot of that is down to within the film, within the story, we get to a point, I think, in many places where we're not really asked to identify with these people as heroes or villains. They're just characters. They're just individuals. Kubrick doesn't want us to take sides. He just wants us to see what's going on and judge it on its own terms, I guess. But unfortunately, our ability to do that is lost by the fact that the script is just so pretentiously bad. The lines of dialogue in this are horrible. Kubrick uses this thing where we hear the inner thoughts, the inner monologues, so to speak, of the main characters, and it kind of reminds me of Terrence Malick, only without any of the class and any of the writing ability. Now, if he'd have brought Terrence Malick in to do what Terrence Malick does on the script for this, he might have had some leeway with it. But yeah, unfortunately, this ain't no Terrence Malick, and it's certainly not grade A Kubrick. The performances in this are particularly bad as well. Paul Mazursky, I think it's Paul Mazursky's character, Fletcher or something. He's asked to go places that the script just doesn't really flesh out enough for us to believe in. There's one moment when they find this woman, they come across her and they kind of gag her and tie her to this tree, and he's the nice guy. You know, he wants them to let her go and just kind of be on their way. But they leave him with her, and then he goes crazy, just completely out there, and yeah. Goes to do things to her and ends up shooting her. But it's just like it comes so out of left field. It's like if this was Platoon or Casualties of War, something like that, we would see the gradual degradation of this man's mind, and it would be written in such a way that it would be believable, it would be plausible. Whereas here, it comes out of nowhere, and the situation calls for him to act in a particular way that is very kind of embarrassing, it must be said. For him as an actor, I think it must have been very embarrassing to do what he does in some of these scenes. Virginia Leith, who plays the girl, is probably the best thing about this film, to be honest. But that's largely, I think, because she doesn't get to say anything. She just looks. It's all in her face. She's a very striking looking woman, it must be said. She doesn't really look like she's from this period. She kind of looks like a modern day actress playing someone from this period. The film isn't completely without merit. I think the story, there is something there, and I think if you fleshed it out a bit more, wrote better dialogue, then you would have a film. And I think there are times when Kubrick manages to inject a little bit of adrenaline into the action sequences, particularly towards the end when these guys storm this house where this general's staying. There's some moments of violence in that for its time seem quite brutal. And I think throughout there are some nicely framed shots. I'll say this much: you can tell that Kubrick comes from a photography background, but as nicely framed as those shots are, a lot of the times it's almost like Kubrick didn't quite know about certain rules of filmmaking, eye lines, things like that. When people should be looking that way, they're kind of looking that way. And yeah, the eye lines don't match, so you're wondering just exactly who's talking to who and how they're responding. You know, there is a reason Kubrick wanted to burn every copy of this film, let's just put it that way. It's not good. It does have a few instances that make it worth watching. If you're a die-hard fan of Kubrick, you want to know how he started out, definitely give this a watch, but probably going to be the only watch you'll ever give it. I give it a 1.5 out of 5. So if you've seen Fear and Desire, please do comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And please feel free to check out my Patreon page and follow me on social media, Twitter, Facebook and Letterboxd. Until next time, crack it.